You're listening to the Racer to Racer podcast presented by Race 92. Race 92 is a vintage-inspired racing apparel brand specializing in celebrating vintage race culture and adapting to motorsports today. Check out race92.com for all your racing merchandise needs. I'm your co-host, Aaron Mack, the other co-host you may have seen walking out of a great club with a big old smile on his face. You've probably seen him at a dirt track. He is the one and only Scott Bowie.
Hey, what's up, Aaron?
Not much. How are you?
Good, buddy. How you doing?
Doing great. So, first off, thanks everyone for watching and listening. If you haven't already, make sure you hit like and subscribe. Subscribe on YouTube. If you haven't listened to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, check us out there as well. And we definitely appreciate everyone who has listened and watched so far. So we have a great show today. None other than Simon Pagenaud. Doesn't really need an introduction. Obviously, 2019 Indy 500 winner, 2016 IndyCar Series Champion, and most recently, 2022 Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona Champion.
Yeah, it was a fun interview. Good guy, funny, and just and he's got this way he exudes his positivity and his confidence, and but not in a way that's off-putting, and that's awesome. I mean, that's he's just good dude, and it was a great conversation.
Yeah, no, for sure. He definitely has a great sense of humor and just easy to talk to.
Yeah, that's what I should have said. Yeah, you summed it up perfectly. Easy to talk to.
But as far as this week in racing, only really news really was a NASCAR race. The what was it called? The Busch Light Clash at
It
the
was a
Coliseum.
clash in the Coliseum.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I
quarter
know
mile track.
you. I know you really enjoy the race.
You know, the feature event itself wasn't bad.
Yeah,
The races leading up to it were
yeah,
hard to watch. But once they got, got those guys out there and they laid off each other, seemingly laid off each other. Maybe that new car just it doesn't suffer the damage that the old car did. So like somebody pointed out on Twitter, they don't have the cut tires. They don't have that sort of thing happening. So it's very possible that, I mean, especially for short track racing, this new car is going to have less yellows and ultimately produce better racing.
yeah. I mean, I definitely see what they're trying to do. I mean, it's a cool idea, but some of the pre-race stuff, probably we probably could have done without some of that.
You know what I mean, when you try to do a show, you do a show, right? I mean, if you're gonna go big, and that's was their philosophy on. That's what they did. I mean, they're saying they had 60,000 people there, which is
Yeah,
bigger
good
than
crowd.
yeah, which is a great crowd considering it's bigger than some of the crowds they've had at some of their bigger events over the last few years.
But then again, you have to
Um,
realize this is the first time they've done this event, and I mean, that usually happens for first big events like that. So the question is, will they be able to retain that?
Boy, it sure seems that way. I mean, you just not that Twitter is the end all beat all, but it is a small cross section of people, and it went over well. And you see a lot of people saying, "Hey, I thought I was going to hate it. I actually really enjoyed it." The track layout was actually kind of unique, where it had those really tight corners, but straightaways widened out, so you could kind of race a little bit more. So I don't know. I mean, I'd give it a 6 just because it was their first
Sure.
time. I talked to somebody who gave it a 7, who's a lot harsher critic than I am. So I mean, I think it was a win-win across the board. And they say their TV ratings were great. I don't know what that number is, but man, I mean, it looks like a big win for NASCAR.
Absolutely. I will say they definitely knew how to kind of hype it up. I mean, the celebrities, I mean, NASCAR does a really good job with getting celebrities. I mean, you don't really, I mean, Indianapolis 500, they get celebrities for the green flag and the pace car, but nothing compared to what NASCAR does. I mean, you see the celebrities that they had yesterday at that race. I mean, that does nothing but help the sport. I mean, there was like Ice Cube, Pitbull, bunch of old football players, Eric Dickerson, Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush.
Well, they were smart. I mean, there was people who had been successful
At the LA Coliseum.
in the Coliseum. It'd have been nice, and I'm sure there's reason why they didn't do it or couldn't do it. It'd have been nice to see some of the motocrossers, or maybe
Mhm.
like a Bob
Sure.
Hanna or someone,
Right.
or I don't know who the biggest winner they've ever had there is. I just thought of Bob Hanna, but I mean, Ricky Johnson or someone of that nature. They could have had him as well, but who knows how the schedules are, what the politics are behind the scenes. So I thought Ice Cube put on a great show, didn't lip sync. I mean, and he nailed that performance. People were kind of making fun of how people were dancing and stuff like that. People have to remember when you're in a giant venue like that, and I promise you, they did not do everything it would take like you would a concert to for the sound. You have delay, you have reverb, you got the sound bouncing off the columns and everything else. I mean, it'd be hard. Like if you were sitting on the other side or sitting on it's very possible it'd been extremely hard to hear the music be intelligible.
Oh, yeah.
Because what you're hearing on TV is most likely right out of the mixing board,
Oh,
would be my
absolutely.
guess.
Yeah.
So, uh, man, I thought the crowd was hype. Hats off to NASCAR. Again, they've done something that people said, this is going to be stupid. It's not going to work. And well, they made them all look bad. So hats off to them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, was there any other racing news? I mean, I think that's it. There's not a whole lot of.
I don't have anything. I'm sure that as soon as we shut these cameras off, there'll be some story or something I should have written down to talk about. What was it? Jimmy Johnson and Colton Herta finished
Oh, yeah.
second in the Race of Champions. So congratulations to them. Pastrana had gotten hurt, and I
And then
guess
Colton
Johnson.
was his Colton was
Colton
his
replaced him.
replacement.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, Colton replaced him. So yeah, man, great job to them. And race season's coming up. We're a couple weeks away, and everything's looking good.
Yeah, the Race of Champions, that was kind of a cool deal. I mean, they did it in Switzerland?
I believe so. And
In or
the cars
Sweden.
were all
I think it was
electric.
Sweden. My bad. But yeah, so I mean, they did it on the snow, which is a first. I mean, I've never heard of them doing that before, so it's really cool to see.
Right. And it was like I said, it was a look at electric racing in that type of environment. Um, and I mean, in all intents and purposes, it seemed like the people enjoyed it, and it was a good show. Um, and again, man, congratulations to Jimmy and Colton for finishing so well.
It was in Sweden. So yeah, so we've have several other interviews. Well, this week we have a couple really exciting ones we're going to be recording, and we still have some from that we recorded back in December that we have to release.
Yeah, we're
and
gonna
they're
have to.
really good.
Yeah, we got some really good ones. We're gonna have to get out. So yeah, uh, yeah, just we'll be dropping. We'll be definitely be dropping interview or shows here coming up. One to maybe two a week, just to try to get these out. So
Yeah, and I know we're going to do a whole week deal coming up.
that
Don't want
will,
to give too many details away, but we're working on that. We have a couple more interviews to kind of get going.
yeah. So that'll be good. Man, there's lot of just a lot of fun right now. We get to talk to we're getting to talk to a lot of interesting people and different types of people and from different parts of the sport. So it's really good time.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking to very accomplished drivers to drivers that are just getting started in racing, but are kind of known for doing other things as well. So It's
Right.
it's really, and that was the whole idea when we started the show. I know we kind of started out where we seemed like we interviewed a lot of like Indy 500 guys, but we're trying to branch out more to where it's not just IndyCar, Indy 500. I mean, we'll talk to those people all day long. Don't get me wrong, but it's good to hear other people involvement in other aspects of the sport. So that's been a lot of fun for sure.
I agree. I absolutely agree to that. It's um yeah, I mean, like you said, we're just yeah. Well, I mean, we're just getting to talk to so many different types of people right now. It's which is why, like you said, it's definitely the reason why I did the show.
Yeah,
And and I do love talking to the IndyCar guys, but I love
absolutely.
talking to any racer. So
Hey, anyone
that's
from Mario Andretti to John Schneider,
that's right. And we've talked to
complete
them
different
all.
spectrum. Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, no, I think we'll go ahead and get into Simon's interview. Definitely was a
Yeah,
great interview, and I think everyone will enjoy. And very loose, and some funny moments for sure. And your cat,
absolutely. And
hey, and your cat makes a debut to the podcast, an official
yes,
debut.
official debut of the cat to the
He's made
podcast.
well, he's
So
kind of made another debut, but it was unplanned.
he's made a couple unofficial visits, drop-ins, but this was his first official. Most likely his last official, by the way. But I'll never say never.
Well, yeah, hope everyone enjoys and hope everyone has a great week.
Yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for subscribing. I hope everybody has a great week. Thank you.
Our guest today is coming fresh off a victory in the 2022 Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. He is a 2019 Indianapolis 500 winner and the 2016 IndyCar Series Champion. He is driving in the 2022 IndyCar Series season with Meyer Shank Racing. We're joined by Simon Pagenaud. Simon, first off, congrats on the recent win of the Rolex 24, and thank you so much for finally coming on.
Thanks for having me. It was a relief on Sunday to get this 24-hour win, and a pretty amazing way to start the season was Meyer Shank Racing.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a good thing to start off with a win with your new team, right?
Yes, it's big because first of all it's the chemistry. You're trying to build a chemistry as you walk into a new team, and Elio and myself trying to help the team go to new heights. And when you win races, it's what it's all about. So the passion for everybody refires, and I think that was just a perfect way to start.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So obviously Rolex 24 is a pretty big race. So where does that rank up with the other big? I mean, obviously you've won championships, you've won the Indy 500. Where does the Rolex 24 kind of rank up to those in your opinion?
Well, I think I'm actually extremely surprised with the impact that the win had all over the world. Most importantly, I think the impact I've noticed in Europe for the recognition of winning that endurance race was massive. We've had incredible impact over there, and obviously, I have a French publicist that works on making sure that I keep my name known over there, and I was really impressed with that impact. So that was my first impression. But I think the race, obviously, it's one of the biggest endurance race in the world. Obviously, right with the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Obviously, to me, Indianapolis is always going to have a bigger impact worldwide, but I thought Daytona was pretty big.
Oh, absolutely. And you're talking a little bit about being teammates with Elio. So obviously you've been teammates with Elio in IndyCar for a long time. But I believe so this was your first actual race, like being co-drivers with him, right?
Yep. Yes. Well, no, actually, it was 2000. It was when Penske entered the P2 class in Petit Le Mans. It's the first time I was co-driver with him in Montoya, actually, in the P2 car, the Gibson.
Right. So I mean,
So
Elio's
second time. Yeah.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I missed that. But so basically, like, obviously, Elio is a big competition in IndyCar. So what's that like? I guess kind of being in the same car against someone who you're so used to, kind of racing against, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess Elio and I have been teammates for a while, great friends as well. Someone that our personalities really match really well. And it's always a pleasure to work with him. Now being in the same car, it was quite special. It was nice, especially before we're about to start the IndyCar season, having a chance to just lay it all down and make sure that we're working together as a team was really enjoyable. He brings a very happy feeling to the race team every day, and that's very enjoyable to be around that kind of atmosphere.
Yeah, and that's a thing that everyone. I mean, we interviewed what's his name? Scott Gager, who's the
Scott
tire
Gager.
guy. Yeah, for Meyer Shank Racing, and he said the same thing as well. Everyone seems to say that. But so when you look at, I guess, kind of your racing career, and you look at like your initial path in racing, I mean, most of your stuff was kind of going towards Formula One, I was guessing, because you were mostly in Europe. Did you ever think that you would end up having a career over in America and it being as successful as it is?
Well, in go-kart, I was dreaming at a young age, I was dreaming to become a professional race car driver. And my dream was obviously Indianapolis, Formula One. It was quite equal to me, especially at the time. I was born in '84, so Nigel Mansell came to IndyCar and really put IndyCar on the map in France and Europe. So to me, it was equal. And I could see the Indy 500 was very attractive, obviously. And as I grew up, I just realized how difficult it was going to be to become a professional, meaning, living off your passion was going to be very difficult. And my first goal was to make money out of racing so I could sustain myself. And then once that happened, then obviously the dream of bigger things happened. But I never really thought I could, but I knew there was something special that at some point I could make it work. But quite frankly, I'm not pretentious enough to think that it was going to be something possible one day.
When you started down your road to Indy cars, and I didn't have time to really study your timeline. Did you have a chance to run mini ovals in like a feeder type series before you had a chance to run IndyCar, or right when you got the IndyCar, just you get right on the ovals?
That's what happened. My first oval race was Indianapolis in 2012. Zero experience on oval. I just didn't understand the technique, the tactic, and what to do to be good on that kind of track. The skills that it required, I just didn't understand. I just didn't know. And the first year I was with Schmidt Hamilton, Honda at the time, and I didn't have a teammate either. So it was very, very difficult to get it. And I had to relearn myself. I had to learn a new skill. And that took me a while. And I must say, the first year at Penske in 2015, it's really when having those high caliber teammates like Helio and Juan Pablo Montoya, that's when I understood that I was on the right path on oval racing. But it took for me to have those teammates to really gain that kind of confidence.
Was it just you were able to download between each other and bounce stuff off each other, or you were able just to see your performance compared to them, like in testing? How did that work as far as you gaining that confidence?
My biggest question up until then was, am I setting up the car the right way? Is what I'm asking of the car, is what I'm asking of my engineer the right thing to ask? Because I didn't know. So, everybody was telling me, you're going to run loose. You're going to run loose. Okay. I'm like, yeah, okay. But I'm too loose. I'm not comfortable and I can't stay full throttle. So it's not working for me. So I would tend to make the rear stronger. And people were like, you're going to run loose. You're going to run loose. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know. And the less I was running loose, the better the results every time. So anyways, I didn't know, because people were giving me advice and I didn't know where I was stacking up. When I first got to Penske, I asked to put Helio's teammate on my Helio's setup on my race car. And then another run, I asked to have Montoya's setup on my race car. So I could see the differences, because they were known to be quite different. So I had a taste for it, and I realized, okay, I'm actually not far off from what they're asking also. And I found myself really close to what Montoya was asking. And I gained confidence on myself and what I was asking. I took it further and I developed my craft afterwards. And it's worked pretty good for me.
Yeah, I'd say so. That, of course, 2019, magical year, pole, basically swept a month,
Grand
essentially.
Prix too.
Yeah, swept a month. And this year, a lot of people forget how strong you were at the end of the race this year. Those last few laps, it was like you were shot out of a cannon this year. It was impressive, because most people assume that Palou ran second, which not the case, and you had a giant run on Halio.
Yeah, for sure. We were strong.
The proverbial one more lap, right? One more lap, and that may have had a whole different victory lane scene.
Well, you can't say one more lap because Indy is 500 miles, and Helio won it. He deserves it. But we certainly had an issue in qualifying. Unfortunately, the cars were slow. I'm not going to expand on that, but that was a real shame because we had a fantastic race car. But it took me the entire race to come back to the front. And all of a sudden, once I was in the top four, all of a sudden I had some clean air and the car was a rocket ship, just as it was in 19. We just didn't have the track position. And I ran out of laps basically at the end to go for it. But I believe, and I said it before the race, I felt like my car was just as good as it was in 19. Just didn't have the track position to start.
Right.
When you win, obviously 2016 win the championship, 2019 Indy 500. Does that lift any type of weight off your shoulders when you win a championship or Indy 500, or do you still feel like you have just as much to prove?
When I won in 16, it definitely made me feel really good about myself. Satisfaction of a job well done was how I felt at the end of that season. But the moment I won, the next day, the first thing that popped up was, okay, now I've got to win Indy. And it's kind of how my mind is. I don't know how it is about other drivers. I just know, I know someone that's exactly the same or more is Roger Penske. Every time you win, first thing he thinks about is the next win. But personally, I felt like I needed to get Indy now to be recognized as a proper IndyCar driver that's fully complete. And then after you win Indy, it's about winning again. So the goal is to do it again and try to do the championship one more time as well, at least, and see what we can do. But it's, you end up being relentless in racing. You just, once you taste victory, it gives you even more desire to do it again.
How long did it take for your Indy 500 win to really sink in? Like for you to realize, like, man, I just won Indy 500.
Didn't take very long. It didn't take very long because it was such an accomplishment. It was such, like you said, a weight off my shoulders just because it's an entire life of work. 2019, okay, but I started racing. Not professionally, but I started racing go-kart in 98. So I cultivated my craft, 94, cultivated my craft all along the way. It reminds me, my first go-kart race was an absolute disaster in the rain. And for some reason, it brings me back to that moment where I was a little kid, 10 years old, kept crashing every corners in the rain, cried, but finished the race. Those moments, the toughest moment, they shape you into who you are in victory. Victory is easy, but it's the tough moments that you overcome and put you in a spot that you end up at the end. It's quite amazing.
Now, this is going to be kind of a two-part question. One, when you start getting to the top of the sport, everything's just this much, right? Everything it's those increments. And And I know you've raced with guys in the past who were great race car drivers, and there was this much of whatever missing. What do you think that it is about you that makes you stand out, that gives you that final bit? And also, what is it like being with teammates like a Juan Montoya, like a Helio, like Joseph, like Scott, who are the same type of person you are?
Well, I think what it takes personally, my life lesson through this growth as a driver has been to work harder, and work always pays off, quite frankly. Sometimes, magical things happen, it feels like. Sometimes I've won races I felt like I shouldn't have, and sometimes I didn't win races that I felt I should have won. The result is one thing, but the personal performance is another thing, right? So what I'm trying to say is sometimes you feel like you shouldn't have won and you won, and that's where the magical things happen. But in my opinion, the more you work, the more you get rewarded. And through my entire life, it's always been like that. And I believe very strongly in that. So I would say I'm pretty convinced that I put more work than anybody else in the paddock. And I expect it to pay off at some point. And it has. I believe in that. It's kind of my religion, and I live by it. Other drivers, what I've seen is some drivers have massive talent. Sometimes I believe that I've seen drivers that have more talent than I do. And some drivers live by their talents, or, use their qualities very well. Some drivers are very studious, like Joseph, for example, is extremely studious. He studies everybody. He writes down everything and uses it to his advantage. Helps him gain confidence in his craft. But the funny thing is, I tell you what, in every drivers that you see drive a race car, the way they drive is their actual personality.
Yep. I've always had that saying, you should drive to who you are.
Exactly. If you don't, that's usually bad news.
I agree. That's a philosophy I've always had.
So when you look at obviously the races you've won, but the races that you would like to win, I'm guessing Le Mans would probably be on the top of that list, right?
Yeah, definitely Le Mans. I finished second, 13 second behind the leader back in 2011. I had the chance to drive for Peugeot in the factory program. That was such a great experience. So I experienced Le Mans in the best way. I drove for Oreca back in 2008, a smaller team. I drove for Pescarolo as well. That was cool. I'd love to go back for sure. I'd love to go back and have a chance to fight for the win. Be in contention would be awesome, and then try to win would be something else. But definitely want to try and tick that box.
How do you think Le Mans kind of compares with Indy when you look at kind of the buildup with the race, the pageantry, the tradition? Obviously, they're both very big races, but having competed in both of those, how do you feel like they kind of compare?
It's a great question. I think they're very similar in many ways. First of all, they both have such great history. Those two are two of the oldest races in the entire world of all time. The history, obviously, the legends, all the previous drivers that won and the names that you remember, the manufacturers that were involved, the stories, Le Mans versus Ferrari, for example, all that brings such a hype to the races, whether it's Indianapolis or Le Mans. And they're one-offs, right? They're part of a championship, both of those races, but they stand out. It's a bit like the World Cup. It's a bit like the Super Bowl. They just stand out as a unique event. So to me, the build-up, the pageantry is quite similar. I mean, it's different because Le Mans, you go around the town in a car and the crowds around you. We do the same in Indianapolis, quite frankly. Right. It's just a different environment because it's France versus the US. It's obviously a different culture, but the racing people, they have the same passion, whether you're in France or in the US. So it's just sports car racing against IndyCar. So it's obviously a different mentality, and 24 hours is a whole different story.
So obviously, growing up as a kid, you knew all about Le Mans and all the pageantry and that, and you had heard about Indianapolis, and you come to
Yes.
Indianapolis, and the first time you experience it is, and I think for different people it means different things. The first time you experience it, were you immediately taken by the event, or it seems like some guys at first, especially if they're not born in America, at first are not so much taken by the event, but the more they do it, the more they fall in love with it. Was it more like that for you?
Yeah, well, to go back to Le Mans. Le Mans is the first race I ever saw.
Oh
I
wow.
believe I was, I must have been 6 years old. We went with my dad, and we drove and parked on the side of the road. Back then, it was a lot less secure than it is now. And I remember seeing the Jaguar go by, the silk cut Jaguar go by, and I remember the ferry wheel and the sound at night was just tremendous. So really, it fired the passion of racing for me. But Indianapolis, man, my first race was not the first time I went to Indy. My first Indianapolis was 2006, where I had some access, limited access, but had some access to seeing, the mechanics, the cars, the team, some people that I knew. 2007, I went and I had a beer. I remember in front of the pagoda, and Dario won in the rain. And I had some access to Andretti at the time. Great memory, but it was amazing to think about the fact that I was drinking a beer, watching the race from the grandstand, and that I won it in 19. So to me, Indianapolis, I always heard of Indianapolis for being the fastest race in the world, the fastest drivers in the world, and daring drivers, because it's also the most dangerous in the world, quite frankly, just because of the speed. So, I remember Rick Mears going across the start-finish line in a Marlboro car, and those are images I have in my head of watching as a kid. So it just, like we talked about, when you're a kid and things really impact your brain like that, it's very special. It's very special afterwards when you can be part of it.
Yeah. I'm sure. And it's funny, talking about Rick Mears, and I mean, Rick, for whatever reason, in my opinion, I mean, he won the first 500 I ever saw, which was his first
Oh
one.
yeah. Okay.
And my opinion, no offense to anybody, the greatest driver who's ever run there, in my opinion. And what was it like to work with someone like Rick? Rick, a lot of people, he's quiet, so a lot of
Yeah.
people don't understand. I don't think just how studious that guy is when it comes, especially to that place.
Yeah. He's incredible, Rick, because he still is current. Like, he hasn't been in the car in a long time, but he still picks up on the little details. You were talking about that earlier. He picks up on it. He sees people positioning their car. He's always talking about how to manipulate the car to make it handle a certain way, or if it has weaknesses, how can you counter that? He's very much into that mindset of how can I make my car work better with what's going on and the people around me and the conditions. And Rick is extremely aware, and it's very impressive to talk to him in details. I never had a full-on dinner with him one-on-one where we were able to go in details like that. I would have loved to do that with him. I'm sure if I asked, we could. But he always impressed me with, the way that he thinks about the car. One change would do this, so then you would have to compensate for that, so on and so forth. It's really, really cool to see his brain about it. I've rarely met drivers like him that have this kind of intellect about the race car and Indianapolis.
Yeah, I don't obviously don't know Rick, but just when I listen to him talk or whatever, it's just so, it blows me away.
Yeah. Impressive guy for sure.
He is.
One of the last things I wanted to, I guess, mention or ask. So one of the big things with you is really social media. I mean, you're kind of known for engaging with fans. And the so back when, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, the autograph battle with Joseph Newgarden, which I think everyone loved that. I mean, that
That's
was
right.
absolutely, and so none of that was like, so the deal when he got pulled over, I mean, that was legit, right? Like none of that was staged or.
None was staged, no. Someday I write a book and I tell all the details, because there's some things that I'm going to keep to myself still, but none of it was staged. All of it was pure. There were no, it was just ideas. And honestly, it was a lot of ideas with my wife that we had about what to do, counter Joseph on his signing. And then in the end, we thought there was a good time to end it, and I thought that would probably be the best one, was the getting pulled over. But we had a few more in our pocket if needed, but Joseph didn't respond, and I think he was done after that one. I didn't think he appreciated it very much, but it was a
That's
good
funny.
prank. I was pretty proud of it.
So, a couple things. One, you're a new father, or newish father. What is that like now, having a child in your, just racing? It's a different thing, right? I'm sure it feels different. It's just a different experience. So how has that been for you?
Well, I take a lot more naps in the afternoons than I used to. I wake up a lot earlier in the morning than I used to. It's definitely changed my sleep pattern in a way. In a way, it's good because I actually feel more energized now. But it's brought to me a lot of, I mean, we already had a lot of love in my life, but that's just another level of, being so excited every morning. Honestly, every morning when he smiles at me, when I pick him up, it's like winning Indy every day. So I'm very much into it that way. I'm excited to see who he's going to become. Kind of afraid about everything, quite frankly. I'm so stressed out about anything that could happen to him in life. But I hope I can be the best dad possible. But when it comes to driving, the funny thing is, I had some fears about, getting, slowing down or being more interested in being with my kid. But it's actually gone the other way. And that's that was the reason. I mean, that was part of the reason why I drove so hard in Indy. Something changed in me that I wanted to prove. Not to prove, but I wanted to make sure my kid was going to be proud of me later in life. And yeah, that's him screaming. And from then,
Right on cue.
from then, it's pushed me to do my job even better and be even more intense about what I do. So I think it's positive, very positive.
And for my opinion, one of the greatest victory lane scenes ever. You have your dog Norman. He's on your baby board, and just such a great scene. And I can tell how much you love that dog, and how much he means to you. Now, I've got something here for you. We have what is now a 30-year tradition in this house of having animals with kind of play on words for names.
Okay.
Started with a cat. There was a movie called Edward Scissorhands. He was Edward Scissorclaws. Then we had a cat who was named Juan Pablo Montoya. And oddly enough, he was not the easiest cat I ever was around. I always say this, we had more of a business relationship than anything. But unfortunately, he has passed. And we have replaced him with Simon Pagenaud.
Oh, that's him. I've seen him on social media.
Simon Pagenaud is now a member of the family, named after you, obviously. So
I want to know how he's behaving.
He's good. He's a great cat, actually. He's the exact opposite of Montoya, believe it or not. I'm not lying.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so there you go. We have a tribute to you in the house.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. That means a lot, actually. I don't know how Norman and the cat would get along together.
Oh, terribly. Now
But
he's pretty good
yeah.
with the smaller dogs in the house, but I don't think he would be anything more active than our dogs would probably drive him nuts.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely, you're welcome.
Well, Simon, thank you so much for. I know you're a busy man, especially coming off of the Rolex win. And I'll just tell you a real quick funny story. So I remember when first off, I think I was around when you were in America Mile with the Farron, because I remember meeting you in like Mid Ohio or something. And and
you were a little kid then.
I was. You see me grow up. You and Will both in LEO.
Yeah, I know.
So when you first came over to IndyCar, you were at an event at the Hilbert Circle Theater downtown. I forget what it was, but you hadn't actually driven an IndyCar yet. You probably don't remember this. And they had you there for like IndyCar Nation or something. And we were doing like a meet and greet with you, and you were signing your name. And back then you did like your signature, and then you wrote Simon underneath like the whatever. And I remember someone saying, after May, you're not going to be doing that. And you were like, what? What do you mean?
Yeah, I haven't done it since.
Yep.
That's a good one. No, I don't remember actually doing that. I don't remember that event. But,
yeah, it was.
But yeah, it's been incredible, man. What's such an incredible career. It's crazy to think it's been 10 years of IndyCar already. Man, I still feel like a rookie sometimes. So hopefully I can do like Elio and make it last another 20 years.
I did have one last question for you. The Jean Girard character, blessing or a curse?
Blessing, absolute blessing. Yes, it allowed me to use that to my advantage. The resemblance is kind of strange, quite frankly, because I do see it myself. The accent, obviously, I can force it quite a bit more, and I sound just like him if I want to. It's been a blessing because it's been a way for people to remember me through that movie. And obviously a movie reaches so many more people than just what we can do with social media, which we didn't have at the time, obviously. But big blessing, yeah. I think without that movie, it would have been very difficult to be recognized by the fans like I am today.
Well, I think it allows you to show your personality too, like your humorous side. And like, I'm sure people are always asking you to do stuff, and then when you do it, they laugh, and it's just great icebreaker, really.
Yeah. So there was a time I didn't like doing it, but I swallowed my pride and realized that it was a good thing, and it wasn't a bad intention from people. It was just funny. And once I understood that, it went a long way, and people enjoy it. So if you can make people laugh, it's pretty good quality.
Have you ever met Sacha Baron Cohen?
No, I would love to, because I absolutely love the guy. I just enjoy what he does.
Right.
He's a great actor. Yeah.
Well, Simon, thank you so much for coming in, and it's been an absolute pleasure. We wish you nothing but success and more victories, and just hope you have a great season.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully I see you at the track soon then.
You'll actually see me in St. Pete. I'm down there. Her nephew's running USF 2000 this year, so we will.
All right. Well, I'll see you then.
See you then.
Yep.
Hopefully on the top step.
Right. Take care.
See you, Simon. Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.